because that's very effective. But I want to tell you a really quick story. Before I ever went to medical school, and I had just started using natural remedies, and I learned about the foot baths and the fomentations. Well, in our area where we were, there was a health food store, and there was a Vietnam vet that worked there. He was kind of a hippie, lived out 12 miles out a dirt road in a teepee. And one day he's riding his motorcycle home. Maybe it was kind of dark because I don't know how he did this, but he was under the influence of something. And as he's driving his motorcycle, he hit a tree branch. And maybe some of you heard this, if Paul's told it
I told the children's story.
as
Yeah.
the children's story.
But I didn't get all the
Did you
details.
hear this story? Well, it ruptured his trachea and severed his vocal cords. I don't know how he got to the emergency room, if someone took him, but the emergency room doctors told him you need surgery. It's going to cost maybe around $50,000, and we can only give you 50-50 chance that you'll ever talk again. He's a hippie. This was back in the 80s, making like less than $2 an hour at the health food store. So he signed out AMA, against medical advice. His trachea is ruptured. Air is leaking all through his tissue. He can't talk. He's swelling. He's got all this trauma going on. He was in critical condition, but he left the emergency room. That was on a Thursday evening. Saturday morning, I went to my mother's house to go to church with her, and here she is slopping dish rags on his neck, and they're dripping all over. That's not, natural remedies isn't her forte. She was into lecturing, and I mean, she's just really I'm like, what are you doing? So I hear this story of what happened to Weldon. The woman that owned the house in front of where I lived was on vacation, and I called her and I said, can this man come stay at your house so I can do treatments on him? And she said yes. So 3 times a day, I'd put him on my table, and I would do hot and cold over his neck and over his back. And when I would massage his back, it was like bubble paper from all the air. It's called crepitus. And I would massage all that out. And I would pray before my treatment. And this man was not a Christian. He hated God, if anything, because, you know, he saw a lot of trauma. His father was mean and abusive, and then he saw war. And he was just very hardened, angry person. But now his life is at stake. And he made sure I prayed before every treatment. By the 3rd day, all of the swelling, all of the air was gone out of his tissue. The bruising was leaving, and he was beginning to whisper. By the end of the week, he could talk in a soft voice. A week later, he was talking in a normal voice. It took a year, and he got his singing voice back. That was in the 80s. I graduated from medical school in '96. And I was back at my parents' house, and the health food store was right next door to him. And I ran next door to see Weldon. And I said, Weldon, guess what? I'm a real doctor now. And he looked at me and he said, Diane, you were a real doctor back then. So, you know, back to the first part, we're finding a real doctor. It's not that I'm the doctor, but I'm just a vehicle that God used to heal using simple remedies. And that's what I told him. I didn't heal. It was God of heaven that healed you. So for me, that was one of my biggest things that I've ever done with natural remedies. And after I finished medical school and through residency, I thought about that story. And you know, medicine put fear in me. Now I knew what kind of trauma he was facing and how critical he was. I probably would have been afraid. I wouldn't have trusted God like I did before I went through training. And I thought, it's like, oh, I can't believe I did that. But you know, I pray, it's like, Lord, help me to have faith. you know, and not to be careless and ignorant, but I want true faith to know how to appropriately use the remedies. So anyway, I just wanted to share that story and let you know that I have seen things, even in emergency room type situations, that there has been healing and relief using simple remedies. One of nature's best remedies is charcoal. Is there anyone who has never heard of charcoal or used charcoal? Okay, there's a few of you. Powdered charcoal is very nice and black. Hardwood is the best charcoal. Softwood would work, but the hardwood is better. Some charcoal's made out of coconut shells. But activated charcoal is charcoal that is made under pressure and a long process. So once they get the coal started, they'll cover it and they pressurize it. And then they powder it. Or they put it, you can find it in capsules in the health food store. I like it in powder form because it's so versatile. You can mix it in water and drink it down. It is excellent for gas. It is excellent for infections. Charcoal, let's see if we can get our picture up here. There's a picture of the fire. It is an absorptive agent. It will absorb gases, toxic gases, liquid toxic waste, germs, and heavy metals. They never knew an antidote for aspirin overdose until recently. Charcoal will absorb it and save someone's life. Every home should have charcoal. It will absorb almost all poisons. Now there's some things that are not effectively absorbed by this. But if someone comes into the emergency room and they're out in a coma and there's evidence that they've ingested a medication or alcohol or some toxin, they will get their stomach pumped and they will put a tube in them and they put charcoal in them because charcoal will go into the stomach and pull out the poisons that are in the stomach. When you put charcoal into the system, let's say you put it into water, and I'm not going to show you how to do it, but the best way that I like to make a charcoal drink is get a jar with a nice lid, such as this canning lid, that has a rubber seal. You know, some of the things that we buy in the grocery store, like nut butters, they have the nice rubber seal around them. So you put about, I would say 6 ounces of water, anywhere to 6 to 12 ounces. You'll need a bigger container. And then a minimum dose would be like a rounded teaspoon. Let's say you have a little tummy indigestion. Put the water in first, put the spoonful of charcoal in it, put the lid on top, and then over the sink, shake it. And I'm not going to shake this because it's very powdery, and if then I opened it again, it'll poof all over. You want to be careful because charcoal can be very messy. So I always work over the sink or over a counter, watch which clothes you have on, and when you drink it, you want to make sure it doesn't drip all over you. This picture, this is my little Samantha, and she had charcoal from the time she was a little baby. Anytime she would start getting a little congested, a little nasally, even as an infant, I would mix up my charcoal water and I'd take an eyedropper and I would drip it down the side of her cheek, and then she would swallow it. So by the time she got big enough to walk and talk, if she started feeling a cold come on or any headache or anything, she would come to me and say, "Charcoal, Mommy, charcoal." And then, so as she got bigger, it got to be fun to make a charcoal mustache. So that's what this picture is. The bigger the mustache, the funner it was. And so we always thought, you know how it says got milk? Well, we decided to do got charcoal. So we always said, we're going to make a poster, and a got charcoal poster. Everybody needs charcoal. So before I go on and talk about what it's good for, let me just describe the difference between adsorption and absorption, a D and a B. Absorption with a B is like a sponge. You know, you can wipe up water and then you wring it out. It doesn't hold on to it. So it lets go of it. But adsorption with an D will cling to it and it will not release it. That's what charcoal does. When you take charcoal into the system, it goes through the digestive tract and never leaves the intestines. So how does it work? To absorb viruses, bacteria, toxic waste, anything that's in the bloodstream. What happens is within the intestinal tract, the small intestines and even the large intestines, the largest amount of blood vessels are around the intestines. They just wrap around the intestines like a net because they're absorbing the nutrients out of the small intestines from the meal that you've eaten, and all that needs to go through the liver and then delivered to all your body. But with charcoal, it doesn't pass through the intestinal tract. But what it does is because of its electrostatic properties, it actually acts like a magnet and pulls poisons out of the blood into the intestinal tract and will never release them again until it just passes out of the body. So adsorbed poison in the intestinal tract. If you get food poisoning, take charcoal. It'll absorb the toxin, the bacteria, whatever it was. It'll absorb the virus and all their toxic byproducts. Have you ever been so sick with, like the flu, that even a sip of water makes you throw up? You ever had that or seen that with somebody? You can't hold anything down? Use charcoal. Mix it up in your water and make a fairly thick dose. Then I would use a heaping tablespoon. Get it thick as you can because I guarantee you, most likely, 99% sure, if you're that sick, it's going to come back up. But it hits the stomach, pulls up toxic waste, and when you throw up, the toxins come out with it. And so people think, oh, I just throw it up, I'm not going to take it. Take it again. Because the next time you take it, it's going to pull more toxins up. And then take it again until you stop throwing up. Because it will absorb the reason that your stomach is reacting. It is the body's protection to throw up, to get rid of the poisons, or when you get diarrhea, it's trying to flush it out of you. The problem with diarrhea is the water goes with it, and you'll get dehydrated. Charcoal adsorbs 80 times its volume. It is the best treatment for diarrhea, and it is very healing to the tissue, inside and out. So you can use it inside and out, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. So here, you can't see it that well, but you can get an idea of how many crevices in here. 1 teaspoon of activated charcoal has over 5,300 square feet of surface. That's why it can adsorb so much. You don't want to use charcoal briquettes because there's chemicals added to it. It's poison. Don't do it. If the chemicals weren't added, it would probably be okay, but there's chemicals, you don't want that. What about burnt food? Don't use burnt food. Burnt food is carcinogenic. It's not good to eat burnt food. So you want to take it between meals. If you have just eaten and you have a stomach upset, take charcoal, even though it's close to a meal. Charcoal does not absorb a significant amount of nutrients. You have to take it for years and years and years and lots of it before you will become nutritionally depleted. So it is safe to take. I don't know a reason why you'd want to take it so long, but it's safe to do it.
Is this what you want to use if you have hiatal hernia and a lot of acid reflux?
Yes, yes, absolutely, it will definitely help. Charcoal is such a powerful remedy if you have high blood sugar. It will help bring blood sugar down. It will help lower cholesterol. It's great for bee stings. It's great for so many different things. We've used it for cancer patients, inside and out. As I mentioned earlier, it does pull heavy metals. I have a woman that I was just seeing, and she actually started taking charcoal internally for heavy metals, and she was rich enough that she could take lab tests before and after. And she kept track, just taking charcoal, no other products, no other remedies, and it was lowering her heavy metals. And so she proved it by lab test.
That include mercury?
It included mercury.
And how much
Including mercury.
was she taking?
You know, I don't remember what she was taking. She was probably taking at least a tablespoon 3 times a day. The only thing you've got to watch for charcoal, it will not cause any side effects. It's benign. It's inert, meaning there's no chemistry that will cause a reaction in the body. But because it absorbs so much water, you can tend to get constipated. It's good for diarrhea, but you've got to watch constipation. And then if you're on medications, you've got to watch when you take it, because it will absorb poisons. And I hate to say, but you know, that puts the drugs that you're on are poison, and it will absorb them. So, some internal uses, any type of poisoning. I don't have a list, but it's extensive. There's very few substances that it won't adsorb. Indigestion, gas, nausea and vomiting, diarrhea, even bad breath, because bad breath usually comes from some digestive problem down in the stomach or intestines. Colds and flus and fevers. The first sign of a cold or fever coming on, take a dose of charcoal. You know how you feel? You can just feel that edge in your head, or you start feeling a little achy. As soon as you feel that, take charcoal. It can adsorb the virus or bacteria that's causing you to get sick fast enough that you won't even get sick.
Take that, follow with the silver salt.
You know what? I might do the silver first,
Okay.
because that'll go into the bloodstream faster, and then take the charcoal. I always, because I do both of them like that, and it's like, okay, what should I do? Which one should I do first? So it depends on what my situation is. If you're getting sick and your stomach's upset, I would take the charcoal first. But if it's viral, I would take a large dose of the silver and then wait about a half hour and take the charcoal. Detoxing, we already talked about that for any reason, and I'm going to talk about a detox protocol. Poisonous bites, whether they be insects or even snake bites, this will absorb the venom. Anybody that goes out hiking, or you know, they're in an area where you're going to be in trouble with venomous creatures, carry charcoal, because you want to put it externally in a poultice, and I'll tell you in a moment how to do the poultice, or taking it internally. I have a friend back home in Arizona. Her husband's a doctor, which doesn't matter, but still, in Arizona we have a lot of rattlesnakes, and where they live, they have rattlesnakes all over their ranch. She got bit on the foot by a rattlesnake. She took charcoal internally, like probably half a cup. She made a poultice of charcoal and put it over the bite. And then she also used what we call a zapper. It's what do you call those? Like a stun gun. It's a stun gun, but it won't hurt. It wouldn't hurt somebody. It wouldn't be a protective agent. It's not strong enough. It's 20,000 volts, which sounds like a lot. And it's not that it feels good, but it's tolerable. If you use an electrical current on a poisonous bite, it will denature the protein. I have a doctor friend in Texas, Stan Abrams. He's now retired. He has a website, though, on brown recluse bites. If you Google Stan Abrams MD.com, I think, or Google brown recluse bites and Stan Abrams, you'll get his website. He worked in the emergency room, family practice, emergency room doctor. Every poisonous bite that came in, he would shock. And so she took this shocker and shocked all around the bite. When she got to the emergency room, they didn't even believe she got bit by a rattlesnake. They said, oh, it didn't release any venom. She knew it did because of the swelling and the pain that she got immediately, but it totally took it away within an hour. Dr. Charles Thomas, who had a health center down in Banning, California, he was in India giving a talk, and they said, in question and answers, could this help for a cobra bite? Because that's the big thing over there. He said, well, I've never used it, never had that experience, but in theory it should work. The next day, someone came bursting through the doors. So-and-so's been bit by a cobra, so-and-so's been bit by a cobra. They got the charcoal, went to him, gave him internally and externally, and the man lived from a cobra bite. That's how powerful it is. This alone, I've seen get rid of brown recluse poison. But the shocker, the zapper, is very effective. So if you ever know anyone with a brown recluse bite, try charcoal. If that doesn't work enough, like it starts going deeper and not everyone reacts the same, if that poison starts deteriorating the tissue, it will continue for life. I don't know if you've ever seen what happens with the brown recluse, but the venom totally deteriorates the tissue and they end up with holes. I mean, it just maims the body. I've seen where Dr. Abram has treated people that 2 years after a brown recluse bite, where their whole leg is being eaten away, he shocked it and it heals. The tissue that was deteriorated actually will heal and recover. It will stop the venom that fast. So that's just another thing. Keep in mind, if you ever want to get one, Stan Abrams carries these little zappers. I've been in Mexico and on the Navajo reservation. They all know about zappers. In fact, you can do it with a car battery. I don't know how to do it with the car battery, but they all know how to do it, and they do it all the time for poisonous bites. You hook up to a car battery and you use it to do the shock, and you shock all around. You want to shock like if you got bit here, you want to shock on the bottom side of the muscle because the poison is going deep. So you want the electrical current to go all the way through the muscle and denature it. Okay, so I get on rabbit trails, don't I? External uses are just as abundant. You can use it for an infection or inflammation. The thing that you want to watch out for, if you have an ulcer, this is on a leg, and sometimes you get a diabetic ulcer or stasis ulcer, you want to make sure that the charcoal doesn't remain in the area, and you apply it by a poultice. As soon as I go through this, I'll show you how to do the poultice. You can put it on the eyes. You just mix it, put it in a paper towel, put it over the eyes. So eye infections it's good for. You wouldn't think that it would work putting it over the ear, but for a child or an adult, whoever, you have an ear infection, just lay the poultice right over the ear and it will draw the infection out from the outside of the ear. Any kind of lesions, no matter what they're from, if you don't know what they're from, I would try charcoal. It pulls the poison out that could be causing it. Bee stings and snake and spider bites that we've already talked about. A way to use it full body is in a charcoal bath. The worst thing about this is cleanup. Charcoal is so messy, and especially if you have a fiberglass tub, you really got to scrub it. And I've seen it where you have your Whirlpool tubs. Oh, gets into the jets. It's very hard. but a minimal of 1 to 2 cups in a bathtub. It's nice to put it into a jar, a bigger jar than this, add a little water to it, the 1 cup, so probably like a quart jar, add a little water, make a slurry, and then pour it into your tub. Otherwise, you're going to have it powdering all over the place. This is what my friend that I was telling you about that took it internally for heavy metals, she ended up then doing the charcoal bath to pull the heavy metals out. The heavy metals were causing Parkinson's. She's the one that has the tremor that I told you had reactions to the Bragg's amino acids, the excitotoxin type things. And she would get into a charcoal bath. Now, one doctor told her to use enough charcoal to make it like a peanut butter slurry. She had one of those big clawfoot tubs. She put 25 pounds of charcoal in it.
She's not messing around.
It pulled the heavy metals out. It pulled the heavy metals out. But you have to have a special setup for the plumbing. You have to be plumbed so it doesn't go into your septic tank. But it works. And if you have Parkinson's and your life is on the line, that's something you want to do. It's worth it. Now, my friend Lisa, who wasn't able to be here today, when she was 10 years old, her family bought a brand new mobile home. It was their pride and joy. They pulled it onto their property lot. Mom and 3 kids stayed home in the trailer. Dad went to work. In 3 weeks, they were deathly ill. Didn't know what was wrong. Fortunately, they found a doctor that found out that they were having toxins. They were having a toxic reaction from all the chemicals outgassing in that new mobile home. I talked to you about my daughter. One of the things that I found out right off, 2 things, what causes cancer, electromagnetic fields, like from power lines. The other thing was mobile homes. They have to put a label on mobile homes that says, may be hazardous to your health, may cause cancer, because of all the outgassing. They were so sick that the doctor told the mother, your children are going to be special ed. They will not be able to go to school. They cannot learn. Their brain had been damaged. The mom didn't want to believe that. She started getting into natural remedies, and they took a charcoal bath with 1 cup of charcoal a day, maybe twice a day, and their symptoms started going away. And of course, they moved out of their mobile home, and they were in a 4-year court case. But charcoal will pull toxins out of the body. And then here we have a poultice. Have any of you ever made a charcoal poultice? Okay, we're going to be running short on time. Most of you have seen it, but do you want to see me do one? Okay. Let's do this quickly.
Does
Four.
all the charcoal have to be activated?
It does not have to be, but it is, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times more potent if it's activated. Debbie, would you get me a cup of water?
No organic cold cup. There's charcoal water up there that I gave you in a cup we didn't use for the children.
I drank it. I drank my water.
Put it in a
Okay,
paper cup.
is what I want. It is, here's the paper cup right here.
Is the water in it?
No, I drank it.
I think it was that.
I was a good girl.
But it was that water that lights
It
up.
wasn't distilled though, I don't think.
Okay.
She said it lights up. Heard that.
That's why I'll light up. Okay, well, you want to do this over your counter, and I'm going to go ahead and do it over my sheet here because I'm not going to make a mess. You know what, I'm going to come up here.
Yeah, right
On the
here.
plastic.
I'm going to come up here.
It'll be clean, you don't have to worry about your table.
And I think everybody can see.
Yeah.
Now, this is called a poultice. What? Covered with it? Not necessarily. You can make a poultice out of anything. I'm going to show you with charcoal, but the same principle will apply for comfrey. Have you heard of comfrey? Comfrey is a wonderful herb. Dr. Christopher makes an ointment called bone, flesh, and cartilage because comfrey heals flesh, cartilage, and bone. So what I would do with the comfrey, I would blend it in the blender to get it nice and smooth. This charcoal is already powdery, so you can see, and of course, the best thing is not to use a styrofoam, but we just use them because they're throwaway. But the reason I don't like styrofoam is because the static in it. So you want to use about 2 parts of charcoal to 1 part of something that will bind it. Right, what I have is flaxseed. This is ground flaxseed. So it doesn't have to be exact. I tend to be a dumper even when I cook. But this, you want to just make sure it's about 2 parts charcoal to 1 part flax. Doesn't matter if it's a little bit more. If it's not enough, you won't get the binding effect. If you just did charcoal without flaxseed, as soon as the water dries out, you end up with, it breaks apart and gets all over. It gets very messy. So the flaxseed tends to have a gelatinous effect, a gelling effect, and it will help keep it together. And you can use it overnight without it drying up and
Are
falling
you using
apart.
the ground or the seed?
The flaxseed?
Ground.
It's ground. It's ground. The whole wouldn't work as well.
Yeah.
You can use other things if you didn't have the flaxseed. The oatmeal works. Lisa has even used flour when she was in Nepal in the mission field. She didn't have flaxseed or even oatmeal to work with. So I added a couple teaspoons of water. You want to add just a little bit of water at a time, and it takes a little bit to encourage the charcoal to mix with the water. I don't know if you can see this. So I just stir nice and gently, and it's starting to get thick. Okay, so then I want to add a little bit more water. And you'd want to get it just like a nice putty pudding maybe consistency. Now this would be something that you want for any of the things that I talked to you about an external use. I had a friend who would make herself charcoal poultices and put them over her eyes and sleep with them. And it helped pull the fatigue, the inflammation out of her eyes from being so tired. She was a missionary, and in fact right now her family is on the Navajo Nation, and she says people come to their house late into the night and they hardly get sleep. So you want to get it,
Licorice pudding.
yes, it could be a little bit thinner. You know how flaxseed tends to thicken with time, so I want it a little bit thinner. And then when you put it on your, I use a paper towel to apply it. You don't have to apply it right directly to the area. Do you remember anything in the Bible that was similar to this for
Yeah,
healing?
was it Hezekiah?
Figs?
Hezekiah had a fig poultice. We
Yep.
think that it was a tumor. Now, I heard recently, and I have to check with the doctor at Wildwood if this was true, what he said, but someone told me that went to school in Wildwood that one of the doctors said that figs have lymphocytes in them. And I said, he did say that? I didn't know that non-animals have lymphocytes. He said, that's what Dr. I forget what his name is. He's not the MD, he's the PhD. Anyway, you can take a piece of paper towel, and depending on how big you want it, if you just want it for like the size of an eye patch or an ear, you only need a piece of paper towel about this big. You take your charcoal, and you spread it out over your paper towel, and you see how nice it stays together? That's because of the flaxseed. Now, if you had an insect bite or the snake bite, any of these things, you simply put it together like that and you've got your poultice. If you want, you can tape the edges, but the way this is, you wouldn't need to do that. And then you would simply, let's say your bite is right there, put it over the bite. Now, I'd probably make them a little bit smaller to go over the eye, but what my friend would do, she would have them and she would tape them into
Could
a
you use
nice patch.
cheesecloth or something like that?
You could try cheesecloth, it might squish through cheesecloth a
Yeah,
little bit
that
more.
stains your skin, doesn't it? Because I tried it one time and my skin
If you have
was
an
all-
open wound, it
Yeah.
can stain it.
Yeah.
But if it's not open, you won't. And the problem with staining the skin is if you have an open cut and you don't get the charcoal rinsed out, then
Saran wrap.
it will grow over
I
it.
seen it done with saran wrap and frozen, and then she would take it out and freeze it.
Yes, you can freeze this and pull it out as you need it. And as a cold, if it's out of the freezer, you can put it on cold and it works like a heating compress.
Right.
You call it, it's frozen, but it's a heating compress because what does the body do when it has something cold on it?
Heats it up.
It heats it up. And so it will send a lot of blood to the area and heat it up. So she would just put it over her eye and she would tape it down to her eyes and she would sleep like this. If you ever wake up and you're tired, or you have the road weary eyes, put the charcoal over and it pulls all that inflammation out. So that's simply how you make a poultice.
So that,
What about skin cancer?
We at the health center where I worked, we use charcoal poultice all the time for cancer. The poultice right over the tumor, wherever it is. So, any questions? Fairly easy, isn't it?
yeah, when she puts that on her eye for overnight,
Mm-hmm.
doesn't that soak through and her eyes are black when she gets up?
You'll get a little bit of black, but it's not like it's running all over, and then you just wash
You
your
can
eyes
wash
off.
it off.
Now, talking about when we used it for cancer patients, we have special charcoal sheets that have been stained, from using charcoal. Because if it gets in it, you can't get them out. So you wash them, but they still look charcoal. So you want to be careful and not put them on your nice linens that you don't want to get stained. So get some sheets that you wouldn't want soiled.
Would it heal a melanoma cancer?
Melanoma is pretty tough, but I would still use it. A friend of mine that was the first person teaching me natural remedies, she treated a man that was dying of liver cancer. He worked in a silver mine and had mercury toxicity, and it caused liver cancer. Typically, that kind of cancer, a lot of cancer, is very painful when you die. She did hot and cold and fever treatments and charcoal. She constantly put charcoal poultices over his liver. He ended up dying, but he never had pain. Charcoal absorbs the pain substances that are causing you to hurt. So this is something very good for pain. Was it you that told me you used it on a man that had gout? And his ankle was all swollen? And you wrapped this around and in the morning he was out mowing his lawn.
I had the foot bath now.
And he did a foot bath and then a charcoal poultice? Okay, but it will be a wonderful cure.
We've put it on, we've done the ones where you freeze and then you can just, put it right
Wrap
on
it
it, but
around.
we've done it with this organic psyllium powder and the flax, and it doesn't tattoo if you mix it with those agents.
Okay, psyllium powder and
Mhm.
flax,
Or flax,
or flax,
not either, not both, but either.
either or.
Yeah.
Okay, so psyllium is good.
Mhm.
I like flax, psyllium pulls. Flax is also healing and anti-inflammatory in itself. So comfrey, you can make a poultice the same way. Any other herb that has healing properties, you could try that. I want to tell you a little bit about charcoal. I had a man that was in his 60s. He was uncontrolled diabetic, and he got in a car accident. He turned his van over, turned it this way, and his arm got crushed between the vehicle and the ground. And when he got into the hospital, they wanted to amputate his arm, and his wife said, no way. You know, here's an uncontrolled diabetic, it's going to have a hard time healing anyway, but she refused. I do not want my husband to lose his arm. So she wouldn't sign for it, they didn't do anything. She called me and said, what shall we do? And I said, well, let's put comfrey on it. So when he got out of the hospital, we made a cast and had it cut in half so that we could put the comfrey on both sides. It was this humerus. She said the x-ray, the bone looked like potato chips, just shattered all through the bone. So we put comfrey on there, put the cast over it, and wrapped it on there. She did that day after day. Finally, after about a week or so during the poultice, she went to making tea out of the comfrey, dipping towels in it, and then wrapping the towel over the humerus. In 6 weeks, she went back to the doctor, and they did an x-ray, an MRI or CT scan, one of the scans, and the bone was beginning to regenerate from the ends, either ends. Within 6 months, the bone totally healed. He got feeling back in his hand. He even had function back into it. It was incredible. So there are many, many things that are very helpful.
When you do the comfrey poultice, do you mix it with charcoal or just comfrey alone?
I would do comfrey and flaxseed. Now, the comfrey, especially, well, whether it's dry or whether it is fresh, has little pricklies on it. So blending it and mixing flax with it helps break down those so it's not so stickery. Okay, I want to talk about just a few other things. Aloe vera is very healing for inside and out. For cancer, it's healing. For ulcers, it's healing. So any digestive disturbances, any intestinal GI problems, aloe vera, inside and out, is very effective.
But you have to probably be careful, don't buy the cheap Walmart stuff that says it's 100% aloe vera, right? You want real aloe vera.
Yes, you want real aloe vera. Growing your own plants is effective. Aloe vera is something that's really good even for a laxative. You peel the green off of it and just chop it up into the salad and eat like 5 inches of it, just a piece that's about the size of my finger. It helps keep the bowels going if you have problems with elimination. Arnica. I think everybody needs to have arnica. This is an herb that helps the blood vessels heal and muscles, tendons. Like when you get a bruise or a sprain, put arnica on it. It comes in an ointment, it comes in a salve. You know how when babies start walking and they always trip and fall. And they tend to have the one spot where they always land. And so I tell you, I was always putting arnica on Samantha's head. If I got arnica on it, it wouldn't get that egg. You know how it swells up and you get that bump and the pain will go away. It promotes healing. I believe that it works because it helps close up the blood vessels, it stimulates healing, and it helps that inflammation to stay away. Okay, we've talked about you all wanted to know about chia. Chia has become very popular in the recent years because of the information about the omega-3 fatty acids. You know, we all know about flax. Chia is right up there with flax. Some people say it's equal to or even greater than flax. But chia has other phytonutrients in it that are not in flaxseed. It has agents in it that give you energy. The Indians would take chia seeds, it's from the sage plant, and they will carry it, and as they would run across the desert, they would eat chia, and it would give them energy to keep going. It is a complete protein. You would be able to survive on chia seed. The way that I use chia seed is I make a gel. Because I take it every day, I make it in a quart jar. I use 3 1/4 cups of water to 3/4 of a cup chia. So I'll fill my mason jar up with water, pour my chia in it, put the lid on it quickly, and shake it. for at least 1 minute, because that's dispersing the seeds and keeping them from clumping. And then you will tell in 1 minute it starts making the gel. And so when you're finished with it, that little bit of seed will swell through the whole quart. Then you want to set it on your counter for 12 hours, 12 to 24 hours. That starts a sprouting process. It won't sprout, but it begins the germination. It makes the antioxidant properties 3 times more powerful than without making a gel out of it. And then to use it, you can put it in your green smoothies that everybody's going to eat, or your fruit smoothies. I mix it in my beans, or whatever I'm having, I'll put it on it. It doesn't really have a taste. It's got more texture, and it's got character. Some people think it looks like caviar, and they can't stand it. But if you can get over that type of imagination and realize how good it is for you, this is what you want to take. It helps elimination. The gelatinous part of it, like even what you get in flaxseed, is mucopolysaccharides. It's excellent for your joints. This is very, very good nutrition. It's even more than just the omega-3s.
You can use it to do your hair, like people who do that.
Have you done that, or are you asking me?
No, I said you can't. I mean, I've done it.
Okay, she's done it. You can put it in things, and it acts a little bit like egg whites. I've used it. I've put it with coconut and water, and I forget what else I was putting. I think I had a little millet, and I put my chia gel and blended it, and it whips like a whipped cream. So you can flavor it up with a little bit of your sweetener. I would maybe use dates. I know what I put in my whip. The pears that came off your tree, they're so sweet. So I put a pear in with millet and some chia gel and whip that up. It was delicious.
That
So,
would be an egg replacer,
chia.
wouldn't it?
It's somewhat good. And not everything, but in a lot of things, it's a good for egg white replacer.
Yeah.
Yes.
How long does it last?
The chia gel, it will last a good 5 to 7 days. Mine's gone, because I take at least a third to a half a cup a day, and usually at one meal. But if I, break it up, that's good too.
Or you buy it in any health food store, or
You can buy it in health food stores.
is it expensive, or?
It's pricier, I think, for the most part, than
Azure?
flaxseed, but it goes
Azure
farther.
sells
Azure has it.
It goes
right?
farther.
Azure.
Oh, Azure would have a good price on it.
Yeah, they usually have really good, and if you guys don't order, you can let us know, we can order when we order
Do
something.
you have to keep it refrigerated? Or?
After the 12 to 24 hours, I refrigerate the gel. The plain seed, you don't have to refrigerate. Now, I want to talk to you about detoxing, and I've got my charcoal up there. It's not a question of if you have heavy metal, it's how much. In our world today, we all have heavy metal from many, many different ways. So I talked about charcoal baths, that pulls it out, and just general detoxing. Charcoal is very, very good for detoxing. Recently, I would say in the last, it was in March of this year, I started using what's called zeolites. I've heard about it over the past 3 years, but you know how, I don't know if you're like me, but I hear about things and sometimes it takes me a while before I buy into it. So I've heard about it, never really looked deep into it, but then I met a friend and he had this brand of zeolites. The other kind that I heard about were very expensive. They were liquid, multi-level, very expensive. And I was like, I don't want anything that is that expensive. So a friend of mine had this type of zeolite. You go online, zeohealth.com, and you can get it. A container like this is it's almost $60, $59.95, something like that. If you buy half a case, it's even cheaper. If you buy a whole case of 12, it's cheaper yet. Or it's not. It's the same price as half a case, but then you don't have to pay shipping. So we just have a few here, but if you go in with some people and you want to split up an order, Zeal Health. Zeolites come from ancient lava dust, is what they say, so lava from a long time ago. It acts like charcoal in the sense that it adsorbs toxins. This will pull out radioactive particles. So that's why when I came up to the Northwest, and I knew that I'm going to have the fallout in a heavy amount, I decided I'm going to take zeolites. I'm not good at taking supplements or extra things. I eat my meal and drink my water. But in the last 2-3 weeks, I started using zeolites on a regular basis. I take a rounded teaspoon of charcoal, a teaspoon of zeolite. I have about a third a cup of water. I take magnesium. Right now I'm using Calm magnesium because of the constipating effect of charcoal. So I'll put my magnesium in the water. The water causes it to have a chemical reaction and turn into magnesium citrate. Put my charcoal over it in the zeolite, and that fizzing, like Alka-Seltzer, mixes it all up. Then I pour boiling water over it and it completes the reaction. I'm doing that twice a day. And I have to tell you the story behind this. In 2005, I had a friend come over and help me with a patient. He was a massage therapist and an excellent hydrotherapist. And when he came to my house, he said, "You didn't tell me you have an infrared." And I said, "I didn't know I had an infrared. Someone had given me this box, and I don't like dry heat. So I never used it." And I said, "Well, tell me about infrared." So he told me the value of it for detoxing and heavy metals. Well, he ended up saying, "Well, let me give you a treatment." So he did fomentations over my liver and my kidneys, 6 changes, so that before going into the infrared sauna, your detoxing organs are opened and flushing. Because you go in there, you're going to be dumping toxins. You want to make sure your kidneys and your liver is open. So he did the fomentations. I went in my sauna for 30 minutes. And then he did a full body wrap, baking soda, aloe vera, and lemon juice. My mouth broke out from about halfway to my nose, way down to here. It was like I was on a desert island without water, in the sun for a month. It took 4 months, 3 to 4 months for my mouth to heal. I couldn't believe how dehydrated I got. It's like, why did that happen? Within about 2 or 3 days after that treatment, he came over to help me again. And I had a little canister of Bag Balm. Did any of you used Bag Balm? When I was a teenager, we had goats, and we would put Bag Balm on their udders to keep them soft and from being chapped. Well, I found out how soft it makes your hands and how wonderful it works for chapstick. So from the time I was 16 to the time I was 50, I used Bag Balm 3 or 4 times a day on my mouth. And he said, "Whose is that?" And I said, "It's mine." He said, "Do you know that has mercury in it?" I said, "No way." I said, "That's what happened to my mouth. Going into the infrared sauna was pulling the mercury out that I have accumulated from this Bag Balm over just about 40 years, 35 years. Well, over the last 2 or 3 years, actually, I started becoming aware of heavy metal toxicity. There's a company in California that sells a tincture of cilantro and chlorella that will pull heavy metals. Cilantro is specific for mercury. It will pull heavy metals out, particularly mercury. I started using that tincture, and my mouth broke out again. It's like, wow, this is my heavy metal indicator, and when I'm detoxing, my mouth will break out. So I used that for about 6 weeks, and it's expensive. I quit using it. And then I will use my infrared, my mouth will break out. Anything I do that's going to start pulling out heavy metals brings this chapped effect to my mouth. I started using straight cilantro. I will chop up, mince one bunch of cilantro. Now cilantro will pull the heavy metal out of the tissue, but it won't pull it out of the body. You need to combine it with either something like chlorella or a cruciferous vegetable,
Like,
Cabbage.
like cabbage. Cabbage is very good. Kale, collards, broccoli, cauliflower, kohlrabi, radishes, arugula, those are all in the cabbage family. And that'll help pull it out of the tissue into the bloodstream and out of the body. 2.5 weeks ago, I started doing this combination. And at the same time, I started back up with my cilantro. 1 bunch of cilantro, half a bunch of parsley, and a cup worth of minced cabbage. My mouth, I have a little crack here, but it's nowhere like it usually gets. I believe that it's working, that the zeolite is pulling it out of the tissue into the bloodstream instead of just pulling into the tissue and causing the irritated effect. I feel great. My head is starting to clear up. I don't know if any of you have brain fog, or just tired, but I tell you, if you have heavy metal or issues like that, allergies because of heavy metal, you know what I'm talking about. This is very effective. So I love this combination, plus the foods that I've mentioned to you. Now
Right.
there's,
so you say cilantro and
Parsley.
cilantro, I do parsley because chlorophyll in general is going to help detox.
and then maybe one
That-
part cabbage.
Oh, I do about it's a cup after. I put it in my food processor and mince it down like a real fine coleslaw.
Uh-huh.
And I mince the parsley and the chlorella so that it makes it easier to
Chlorella.
chew. I'm not chlorella, the cilantro and parsley.
Parsley
I'll put them in the food processor, and then I put lemon over it
with cabbage.
with cabbage. So I have this huge plate of greens. And I put my lemon over it, or I make a sunflower seed dressing that has lemon and sunflower seeds in it. And then I'll take some beans and pour that, it's like haystack. I put my bean with lots of juice. And that's my dressing. And that's my breakfast.
And that'll pull the metal out of your
That will
cells
pull
and
the
then
metal
extract
out of
from
the
the body.
cells. Yes. Now there's other things that pull heavy metals. I told you about the product, the chlorella and the cilantro. It's rather pricey. You can get some of it that's not as concentrated in a regular health food store. There's this company that I told you about. I found another product that a naturopath told me about. It's from a company in Canada. It's called AMD. It's vitamin mineral supplement. This pulls heavy metal out. It's not as expensive, but they've tested people, even children, and before and after taking this, and they know that it pulls the heavy metals out. If you mix it with something, this is sodium alginate, which kind of works like chlorella. That will help pull the heavy metal. I also recommend that you do something to help the liver. The #1 thing for liver health is milk thistle. The proper name is silymarin. This is called silymarin. And then it's got some other things in it. I don't have my glasses on, so I can't read it. But these are the type of things that you want to do to support your system as you are detoxing. So milk thistle is very important to do. I don't have the protocol written out right now, but in the next short period of time, I can't promise a week because I might be moving, we're going to write it up. Charcoal baths, Dead Sea salts. The company where I get the Himalayan salts sells multiple types of salts. It's called Saltworks, and they're here on this side of the state. But they sell a Dead Sea salts. It's very high in minerals. Can't eat it, it tastes awful. But it will pull heavy metals out if you put it in your bath. It is excellent for detoxing. I've gone in, I've taken a Dead Sea salts bath, and I also put in Epsom salts and my baking soda. And I just might not feel good head-wise, body-wise, And I get out after about a 20-minute bath, as hot as I can take it, and I feel like a new person. So that's a very good way for getting rid of toxins. Now the Himalayan salt, we do have some there. Himalayan salt is from the Himalayas, it's from the glaciers. Any salt that you use, you want to make sure that it's unheated and unrefined. Real salt is unheated and unrefined. Once you taste Himalayan salt, it is so delicious. It just has a wonderful flavor. It's pink because of the minerals that are in it. When you have the right salt, it will not cause high blood pressure. In fact, it will help your blood pressure come down. And it won't promote swelling. It will help decrease swelling. So I used I went to Celtic salt, was the first salt I used, but that comes from like the Mediterranean and some of the oceans that are polluted. When I heard about Himalayan salt, I switched to this because it's never been touched by the toxins of today's ocean. So this will pull heavy metals. So you can enjoy the flavor of salt at the same time that it helps detox.
Where do you buy that?
We have some.
We have
Our
some,
church, we found a whole, we got a really good deal on it, didn't we? Yeah, there's the lady.
where do you get it from?
Azure had a bulk sale.
Yeah. $4
Okay.
a pound or something?
$2.
Or
$2 a pound's a good price.
Really quick.
Saltworks sells it, if you buy a 25-pound bag, it's around $2 a pound.
Yeah, that's what they did. They sent out email, everybody ordered them.
So it's great to have a co-op where you can buy bulk, because that's where you get it cheaper. Saltworks, if you even buy bigger bulk, you get it even cheaper and cheaper. You might look into Dead Sea salts that way, because then you can buy it and break it up. Dead Sea salt is not as expensive as the Himalayan salt. You know, when you get used to buying salt for 25 cents a pound in the health food store, you think I'm using sea salt. It should be good. It's been heated and it's been refined. And all salts are not the same. And so when I finally switched to a good salt and you go from 25 cents a pound to $2 or $3 or $4 a pound, it's like, yikes. But once you realize the health benefits and the taste, you never want to change. It's worth it. Okay, I'm getting down to the end. What was one of the last things I wanted? Oh,
Water.
water. Okay, bring me back to water. I just now signed up with a company called New Chapter, and they have a product that is an ibuprofen substitute. It's for inflammation, and it's all natural substances. I'll just right out tell you, I didn't know until I got it. It is not in a vegetarian cap. It is gelatin, but it is BPH free. So that's the benefit of it. So you have to kind of weigh that out. I don't know how you feel. I prefer to have veggie caps. If it's not, I wouldn't totally stay away from it, but I am going to talk to the company. It's like, wait a minute. This isn't a veggie cap. But Debbie is one of the first ones that I've had use this. She suffers with a lot of pain. And she's just tried this 2 days ago. I think recent.
Thursday or Friday.
Thursday or Friday.
Because part of my shoulder is, I think, kind of frozen, isn't it?
Yeah,
Didn't
she
figure
is.
out from climbing trees and picking an apple. So I couldn't sleep all one night, and then the next night she said, you can go ahead and take 2, and I slept all night, which was,
Yeah.
I think,
The pain didn't wake her up.
didn't wake me up. I slept so wonderful. I said, could I just take it to go to bed with? It was wonderful.
So I'm going to balance what I say with that it's not a veggie cap. It's better to take this than your ibuprofen. Ibuprofen is the #1 cause of cardiovascular disease. They have now proven that heart disease is caused, one cause of heart disease is ibuprofen.
Boy, I've had it.
Okay, my daughter, she just had a baby and she has a lot of hip pain. Would she be able to take when she's nursing?
Yes,
Nursing?
yes. It's all herbal. There's nothing in here that would be a problem. But I will call the company and ask just to make sure. But there shouldn't be anything that bothers the child, so it's all natural. So I'm really excited about with this company. Okay, I think you might have seen everything. Everyone needs to have a Councils on Diets and Foods and a Ministry of Healing. I believe the nuggets for healing, all healing that we need is in Ministry of Healing. I combed through this book. I would read at least a few sentences before I go to bed every day, and I would just pray, Lord, what is this saying? What is in here? How does this work? But this is an incredible book. And then, of course, Councils on Diets and Food that I talked to you about. I like to spiral bound my books because they're easy to open. Now, Councils on Diets and Foods is now $8 for a paperback book. Cost about $3 to $4 for the spiral bounding. This printing has very narrow inside margin, and there's no way you can get around hitting some of the letters, but you can still read it. So this is your manual for studying the principles of eating. Now keep in mind that the health message was given in progression. And so there's statements that she made early on that later changed. So you have to read it with that in mind. And if I ever have plenty of time, I would like to rewrite this book and put it in chronological order, time-wise, so that you can see the progression of how the statements were written, that once what they were doing at one time soon changed and they quit doing it. Okay, there's a lot of other things I guess I could tell you, but we're going to stop there. I think you all saw that we do have DVDs of the series that I did yesterday. And, Healing Leaves. I don't have catalogs from them, but Healing Leaves that sells quite a bit of products. Rob McClintock in Naturopath has formulated all his products. He has excellent products. This is a complete cleansing kit. It's a full system, blood, liver, bowel, what else is in there? It is a full cleansing kit, so you can get this from him on his website, Healing Leaves. I do have one kit available. All right, I'm ready to quit and answer some questions.
Water.
What
Okay,
about,
I'll come back to water.
have you heard of Manatech?
Yes.
What do you think of it?
Manatech, the basis for Manatech is aloe vera. The biggest thing that I know about Manatech is from Rob McClintock. Because he is not only a distributor for health products, he is a producer. He's a chemist behind it. He gets raw materials and puts them together. He went to a conference, a convention, that sells the raw materials by mistake. He was a day early, but he still got into the convention hall. And he said it was incredible, to see all of these raw products. He found out firsthand what the formula was for Manatech. And he said the majority of it is filler.
Yeah,
To bulk it up. It's a multi-level marketing company, and they bulk it up with non-valuable stuff to sell more of it. So, but he took their formula of the things like the beta-glucan that is very valuable. They do have valuable things. And he made his own product, Immunoplex. And Immunoplex, it boosts the immune system, helps the white blood cells to destroy cancers, to destroy viruses. There's one that he calls Immunoplex AV. It's for viruses in particular, and it will avert a cold.
Now, there's something in Manatech, I even called the company because Rob had told me there's three companies that have that, whatever that special ingredient is in it, and he's one of three. But he has a vegetarian formula. The Manatech has some kind of sea, Well, it's a sea creature that's unclean. I'm blanking out what it is.
Really? Mm.
Anyway, I called the company straight away and I said, excuse me, I don't know, it's either, is it squid or, it's been a long time ago since I called them. I says, by the way, I have some allergies and could you tell me if it what you have in it and if you have this whatever it is, these sea creatures? And they said, yes, we do. So, have you heard that?
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, what's the one that a lot of people just get sick? It's a fish of some sort. Shellfish. It's either shellfish or something similar out of the sea. And so Rob says, huh?
Real?
I don't remember that, but I believe Rob. He's basically my neighbor, and so, but I just wanted to call the company just because a lot of people sell the products. So anyway, his company has equivalent and actually better, it's cheaper of that particular thing of mint.
So how do you get a hold of Rob McClintock?
HealingReach.com.
Everything's online.
What did you say, tea leaves?
Healing.
leaves.
I have
Healing
one.
leaves.
I have one of his catalogs,
Can't hear.
and it should have the phone number on
If
it.
any of you need it, I can give you his website and
Okay,
stuff,
we'll
because
talk, we'll talk.
Yeah.
Dr. Rob is, he's been actually working over here. He was doing floors for the
I got
high schools and
Oh,
stuff.
really?
He's
Rob-
looking at
20
it.
hours of some of his stuff.
Yeah.
Rob is a genius. I
We
mean,
went to
he
Dominican
just
Republic through Dr.
really
Rob
is incredible.
when we did
with
our
what
family
he
ministry
puts
mission.
together.
Healing Leaves.
Healing Leaves.
If you Google like Healing Leaves.
I wanted to ask you one more question too. I have an incurable, slowest of the slow-growing kind of lymphoma. What would you recommend I take for that? That would probably cure it? Could it cure it?
You know, I don't know whether it would cure that. You know, I never want to say yes, but diet would be one thing. Whole foods, nothing refined, particularly oils, fats.
Okay. Yeah.
That causes more inflammation in the body. It decreases oxygenation and it clogs the system up. No refined sugars, no refined proteins or fats. So that would be first. Lots of greens. Now I've talked to some people, we were talking about juice. Someone told me about their wife that had breast cancer. Is it breast cancer? But they did 3 quarts of juice a day, mostly greens, and the tumor shrank. Of course, they were doing some chemotherapy. But I know that there's healing power in our vegetables, and particularly our greens. Whether to use juice or to use whole foods. I'm kind of on the whole foods line, but I really am giving a lot of thought to, I know the value of juice. It just, to me, I have a hard time wasting all that fiber. And why did God put the fiber in it? There's a reason. It gives intestinal fortitude. The muscles have to push against something. So if you have pure liquid and you take the fiber out, it weakens the digestive system. It slows down the nutrients. We shouldn't flood our system with a rapid amount of nutrients, even if they're good. Yes, our food is more depleted. So there, I just go back and forth. And when do you drink juice? You know, you shouldn't have liquids with your meals. And so you have to take it away from your meals. Well, then that's another meal, and, you know, it triggers digestion. So there's all those issues. But anyway, lots of greens in some form. I'm going to get to your water.
I was gonna say, I know you're a big fan of the hepatitis B shot.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of it. Come to my clinic and I'll sell them cheap.
My wife is going to the Dominican Republic with her nursing school,
Uh-huh.
and they're requiring that she get Hep B. You know, is there any way?
I would contact NVIC, National Vaccine something. I don't know what the IC, I don't remember what it stands for. They can tell her her legal rights. They cannot mandate anyone to have a vaccine. And so you just need to know how to fight it. The global missionary for Yuji Pines travels all around the world, and he never gets vaccinations. So if NVIC does not help you, then call Pines and say, what does Miller, Don Miller, what does your global missionary do for avoiding vaccinations? It's a scare tactic. They legally cannot make anyone get vaccination. But they threaten you to the point where you think, oh, I gotta do it. I would avoid going instead of taking a vaccination. Just when you know how devastating they are.
We went to Dominican, we didn't take any, is it just the program that's saying you have to?
Yeah, it's going, you know, through nursing school they have. It's not
Oh,
like-
of
it's
course,
not going
it's
through
nursing
nursing.
school.
It's through nursing school.
Yeah,
so it's-
yeah, they try to force that.
yeah.
Well, she just needs to say no. And if she needs some legality behind her, just so she knows her rights. Okay, she wants me to talk a little bit more about water. The water filters, like what do you call the Brita filters? Those will take out some things, but hardly anything. Our water today is so polluted, even well water. So I don't think that those filters are sufficient. They would be better than anything else. If you went overseas, that's a whole different thing, but even here, they make ultraviolet wands that will kill the germs. So at least you could kill microbes. You know, that's something for overseas, or if here for survival, you know. Sometimes it's gonna be, it might be impossible to distill your water or get good water. There are those filters, their container is about this tall. Oh, I can't think of the name of it.
Well, it's got sand and different, it's I used to have a really big one that was all, types of material.
Yes.
It filtered it out. I'm trying to think of it,
Under your
organic,
sink, like this
or,
water.
there's a word for it though.
Under your sinks are
Oh, this is
water.
huge, this is pretty good sized container.
Yes, I think you're thinking of the same kind. I want to get one because it is pretty effective without any power. You
Right.
don't need electricity or anything. It filters the water out, and that's fairly effective. Reverse osmosis water is second best in my book, but it's only as good as the filters, the membranes. And now I heard someone I thought that it takes like 6 gallons of water to make 1 gallon of reverse osmosis. But someone that told me that they were, I think it was Kelly Myers, said that that's not true. He said, I've put in and installed RO waters, but you know, you don't lose any water. So RO water's fairly good. It does not get out radioactive material. Now then there's the big question of alkaline water. And I don't know whether I can adequately answer all of the things why people get results from it, but here's what I know about alkaline water. If any of you have looked into pH, body pH, we need our systems to be alkaline. That's the big push. You drink alkaline water to be alkaline. In general, if you eat alkaline food, does your body become alkaline or acid? Grains are alkaline. They make your body acidic. Lemon is acidic, but it makes your body alkaline. So on that, it's like that doesn't make sense to me because you're taking alkaline and you're making yourself alkaline. Where's the first place that anything goes from your mouth to your stomach? What is the pH of the stomach? It's acid. How acidic?
Very.
2. It's 2 or 3. Why? It's hydrochloric acid. Why do you need hydrochloric acid?
Break down the food.
To break down protein in particular. So the more alkaline your stomach becomes, you're not going to break down protein. This is why taking antacids are so harmful to digestion, to the body, because you will not break down proteins adequately. Plus, you will get a rebound effect. If you're taking